What is up, my Planeswalkers? So, time for the second installment of the Cogmancer Makes It Better, where I take the 2019 core set Planeswalker decks and make them better. Following the same stipulations as before, I want to make sure that I do not add any mythics beyond the Planeswalker that originally came in the deck. And ideally keep the plus to $15 or less. I'm supposed to do a I don't care about the price upgrade as well. We'll discuss why that's a problem when I'm talking about the deck as we go. So, I'm going to put you back on the rack and we'll go through some of these cards. Alright, so, as always, or at least as last time, and hopefully I'll remember to keep doing it, these are the cards that were in it that I decided to take out. I took out a couple of forests because I put some other mana ramp and mana fixing in there so that I can use 25 mana instead of the 27 that it originally came with. Meteor Golem, it's decent removal, but the 7 cost is better spent elsewhere. Gaspark Twins, again, 7 cost. Yeah, you can block an extra creature if you leave it as a blocker. It has trample, which is nice, but 7 is really slow, and there's not a lot of mana fixing in a single set, because remember, I have to use only 2019 cards to rebuild this. So, not wonderful. Titanic Growth. That was really up in the air. You can use that as removal sometimes. They think they've got you, so they're like, ha ha, and you're like, no, I totally killed you instead. But, I don't know. It may go back in as I play through the deck a little bit, but right now I don't think that it fit. Make sure to leave your comments in the comment section if you agree or disagree with my choice on that one. Ursine Champion. Ursine Champion is just, well, it's a bear that turns into a bear, which is great. It's a 2/2 for 2, but late game you can pop 6 into it to give it +3/+3 and becomes a bear berserker until end of turn. Activate this ability only once. Yay, you get a 5/5 for 6 that you have to pay every turn to keep that 5/5. If you gave it trample, I might still keep it in there, but a 5/5 that's chump blockable, you're sinking 6 mana into a whole lot of nothing at that point. Very sad, very lame. Scala Wolf. I want to like this card so much. I mean, the art is beautiful. The flavor is beautiful. I mean, look at that. Look at that Ghost Wolf. It's so freaking cool. But it's 5 mana for a 3/3 that all that it does is it allows you to look at the top 5 cards and choose a card to draw. And it's not like you can just put those other cards back on the top or something like that. No, they all go away. So if you draw 3 really good things, you only get to keep 1. It's not the best choice for this deck. Plummet. I really toyed with keeping that in there because it's one of Green's biggest weaknesses is flying creatures. But I just didn't have the space. And you'll see what I'm talking about when I get into the deck itself. Took out the Oaken Form. Oaken Form is 3 cost for a +3/+3. Since we're playing a mono green deck, there's a better option, and I've chosen to go with that one instead. Colossal Dreadmaw, 6 mana for a generic 6/6 Trampler. Bristling Boar, 4 mana for a 4/3, can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Thornhide Wolves, 5 mana for a, what was it, a 4/3? A 4/5. Just a vanilla 4/5. Declare Dominance, yeah, it's a sorcery that makes basically lure. if you played any of the old style stuff, Lure makes, you know, one creature the target. Everybody has to block it if possible. Reclamation Sage, you know, Artifact or Enchantment Destruction, that's nice. And Elvish Rejuvenator. Look at the top 5 cards and you can put a land card. So it has some mana fixing effect to it. But again, there's a better option out there, and we'll go over that. So this is what's gone from the original deck. So let's look at what's in now. Alright, so first, of course, you know we're going to be keeping Vivian. Vivien is, as a reminder, bring her back up there, her +2, sorry, 6 cost for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. She has no defense of her own, so you must have something in play to defend her to make sure that your opponent doesn't smash the crap out of her with creatures. Her +2, put 2 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature. Her -3, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. And her ultimate, creatures you control get +4/+4 and gain trample until end of turn. That's going to have to be, if you manage to get her out, you have to ultimate her. There's not really anything else about it. And it's not even really that, the +4/+4, that's nice. The trample is the key, because they're going to have other creatures. And green, you want to go stompy, because that's what green's good at. Green is great at stomping the crap out of stuff, destroying enchantments, destroying artifacts. Red does a little artifact destruction, white does a little enchantment destruction, but green does it both and does it cheaper for the most part. And we're not super concerned about their enchantments and stuff. What we're more concerned about is we need to hit them in the face over and over and over again as many times as possible. So, put her up here in the corner. That way she stays there as the story goes through. So, one of the things I don't know if you guys have realized, there is one green card that you can play on turn 1 in 2019. And that is a 0/3 wall with reach, which, yay, defender. I mean, it's great, but with a green deck, you really don't want to just sit there and defend. That's not your thing. You want to life gain and overpower, and that's kind of the goal, right? So you really want to be on the play in this deck, because you're not going to have really any turn 1 play at all, ever. You're never going to have a turn 1 play. So your ideal turn 1 play is going to be a forest, because that's what this deck runs, is a forest. They play their turn, and then your turn comes out, and you pop out a Druid of the Cowl. This is our first mana fixer. There's, of course, going to be 4 copies of this. The deck originally had 2. We're adding 2 more to it. Each of these is like 14 cents. So, no big deal. Not a lot of cost added through the Druid of the Cowl. That's your main mana right there. Ideal turn 2 is the Forest Druid of the Cowl. That way you have something to block whatever little thing they've put out as their turn 1. So they attack you, you can block. So there's no damage that's been exchanged. You have 2 options for a good turn 3 play in this. You could play Gift of Paradise. Gift of Paradise, enchants one of your lands so that you get a little bit more mana ramp going. Plus, when it comes in, you gain 3 life. Just in case they've been able to bolt you to the face. You don't get your Druid of the Cowl out because you don't have one. You still have 3 lands, though, so you can drop the Gift of Paradise to keep yourself going for an extra turn. If you don't have a Gift of Paradise, but you do happen to have a Vine Mare, that would be your turn 4 or turn 3 play. Get that out there on turn 3. So you have a 5/3 hexproof that can't be blocked by black creatures. Sort of protection from black, which is great. You want to play this on turn 3 as often as possible. So, turn 3, you make your mana drop. Turn 4, you still want to make that drop, because we're going to have some bigger creatures. So you're going to want to keep this thing going. So anyway, we got, of course, 4 copies of Vine Mare, which none came in the original deck. So that's an additional $1 and change per. I think that it's worth it, personally. And a couple of extra Gift of Paradise. I think it came with one before. I could be wrong. Anyway, so turn 4, you bring out another mana, and then you tap everything down to play Gigantosaurus. Because you're playing mono green, of course you're going to play Gigantosaurus. I put in 3 copies of it. I would like a 4th copy, but the lack of trample really is a turnoff for this particular card. And I think that it's better if you don't. You know, 3 is good. That way you're probably going to get one by turn 4 or 5 that you can toss out there. And ideally, you can use one of the many things available to give it trample. Turn 6, you again you tap your Gift of Paradise and everything, and you drop your Vivien. And then, of course, you just keep going and going and ramping and going and bigger and bigger and bigger and many more creatures. That's ideal. Now, sometimes ideal doesn't work. So we have other things that we're going to play in this deck. So we're going to start with the low casting end and moving our way up. So our other options, we have 4 copies of Talons of the Vastwood. This is a way to give Gigantosaurus trample. That's one of the biggest reasons that it's in here. And since it's ideally going to go on a Gigantosaurus or a Vine Mare, it's going to be something they're going to try and kill as soon as possible. So having the ability to bring that back to your hand and play it on another creature to give that creature trample, that is a huge, huge benefit. So we're playing a full play set of that. Rabid Bite is an excellent removal type, because if they're playing a Vine Mare, so it says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Well, this is not being targeted by the spell. This is being targeted by the spell, which then does its damage. So it gets past the hexproof. It's also just great for you to say, oh, by the way, you know my Gigantosaurus? Yeah, it totally eats whatever it is that you've got, and then swings at you for 10 or more. We've got 4 Dryad Greenseekers. I, of course, don't own all 4 of them yet. But these are like, I forget how much those are. I looked them up. I think it's still less than $1. So we're still well within our original budgetary restriction. But it's a 1/3 that's also an excellent turn 2 drop. You never want to activate this ability until your opponent's end step, though. So they have their turn. During their end step, you tap to look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you put it in your hand. Then your turn starts. You untap, upkeep, draw, and so you've drawn 2 cards that turn. If it turns out that it's not a land, you've lost literally nothing. You just didn't gain the card advantage that you wanted. So that's an excellent card to toss in there. And of course, I'm going to play a full play set of that. Next, I did keep all 3 copies of Vivian's Jaguar. I was really on the fence about this one because it is only a 3/2, but it has reach. And if you happen to have a Vivien of the Arkbow out here, you can bring it back to your hand and replay it. It's not an ideal removal for any sort of flyers, but it is a decent deterrent at the very least. Because, you know, it'll eat a 1/1 Thopter without a problem, but it dies to shock. So, pros and cons. But even with all the cons against it, I decided to go ahead and keep it. We've got, oddly, I've opened 3 boxes and some packs of 2019, plus the Planeswalker decks themselves, and I've only gotten 1 copy of Blanchwood Armor. It's weird. But this is the one that I put in to replace, what was it? It was I forget the name of the freaking card. Oakenform, that's the one. So, since I'm only playing forests in this deck, I'm almost always going to have 3 forests before I play this card. Because I can't imagine playing this as a turn 2 on a Druid of the Cowl that I have then tapped to make that. No, that's a terrible play. So I'm going to have the 3, which is a +3/+3. So it's just as good as Oakenform, but gets better than Oakenform. And then, of course, a couple of copies of Colossal Majesty. Colossal Majesty is great because, ideally, you're going to be building up to as many 4 or greater powered creatures as you can get. So, untap, upkeep, you draw an extra card. Card advantage is going to be the only way for you to keep gas going into this, this steamroller that you're wanting to do. The last 2 cards are, of course, from the original pack, and that's Aggressive Mammoth, because absolutely gives everything else trample. You got Gigantosaurus out there, you got a Vine Mare with Blanchwood Armor on it. You pop out an Aggressive Mammoth, that can be your game ender, right there. Turn probably 6 or 7. He doesn't even have to attack. Just giving the other ones trample can be your game ender. And Pelakka Wurm, odd that it's in the rare slot considering how lame it is. But in this deck, it does really well. It's, of course, 7/7 trample. You gain 7 life, and when he dies, you draw a card. So there are good things about him, but I don't know. It just feels like an uncommon card to me. It doesn't really feel like it should be a rare. Anyway, that's just me. So it's weird. I've not built a deck like this where I can't have a turn 1 play. That is mind-boggling to me, because yes, there is Land of War Elves in 2019 apparently, because I was looking on TCG Player and they're there, but it's $1 and change, or $2 or something like that to have a Land of War Elf. I'm like, Land of War Elves are like a nickel. They're everywhere. They are printed. They're everywhere. But apparently, it was printed as like a promo or something, and is not available in the common set. The only mana dorks that you've got in this deck are Druid of the Cowl. That's your mana dork. So I was flabbergasted by that. So yeah, there is no turn 1 play. Ideally, you want to be on the play so that you don't get steamrolled on turn 2 by whatever it is they've got out. Especially if you're playing against red with their hasty creatures of death. Under no circumstances is this a competitive deck, and I could think of no way to use only 2019 cards, aside from tossing in maybe a couple of extra Vivians, and the Hydra. I forget the Hydra's name, but yeah, it gets stronger as long as it doesn't die. It gets more +1/+1 counters, but even it doesn't have trample, so you have to give it trample using something else. And there's really not a way to make this deck any better than this, I don't think. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them in the comment section, because, of course, I'm not perfect. I've got a lot of A lot of experience, yes, but I might have missed something. If I miss something, you make a comment down below, and we will maybe do a rework on it. As before, the deck list will be in the... Oh, sorry, 25 forests. The deck list will be in the description of the video itself. And I guess I'll just catch you next time, Planeswalkers.